Welcome to Warrior Commission Now, where we talk about practical ways to live out your commission with God. I am Christine Casten, and today Joyce Bertoch is joining me, and we are having a really good conversation. And it's so funny because I love these conversations that I get to have as people come on. Like we kind of start talking and it's like, oh yeah, we're supposed to be recording something. So let's push record and capture some of this. And so Joyce and I have been talking about the value of exploration. And as we talked about that, Joyce started with a question of, do we ever finish transition? Which I think is a great question. And then from that, we moved into the idea of God giving us invitations and why that's important. So Joyce, maybe you can kind of catch everybody up as they gather around the table with us and just help them understand kind of what is that invitation that God gives us and why is it important for us to recognize that invitation in our lives and in our growth.
Thank you, Christine. Yeah, I think that as we were talking, I just was thinking about why, if God is giving me an invitation, it's an invitation. So I have a choice. I could say yes or no. So why would I say yes? Because sometimes no seems easier. So what would be the life-giving, benefits that help me to bask in the goodness of God, reasons to say yes? And one of the things that we discussed was the fact that when you say yes, you go on an adventure, like you begin exploring and you begin to see God in a new way, like you have never seen him before. I had an experience where I was given an invitation into doing just regular prayer. And at first, my first thought was, no, that sounds hard. Why would I do that? And then God himself came to me and said, would you do it for me? And I was so young in the Lord at the time. He needed to do that to me. He needed to, ask me directly like that. He's so gracious that way. And so my heart melted. I said, yes, Lord, of course I would do it for you. And I began on this adventure of something I knew nothing about. I didn't have a clue how to run prayer every week. And so I began this adventure that continued for 5 years and became this amazing thing. So when I think about new things in my own life and transitions and God asking me to say yes to things, it seems so, like I have no idea what that would look like. Like I have no clue what that will look like.
It's unknown.
Yes, but to remember the things of the past, and to remember how good they could be when I took a risk to explore with God, it encourages me to continue saying yes to God. So Christine, have you had opportunities that you can think of to say yes to God, and what kind of exploration did you end up seeing? What kind of
Many. I've had many because God moves with invitations so often. And I think, I was thinking when you said, like your first response was no, absolutely not. I think that as we learn to trust God in the first invitations that we get from him, then we start to not resist so much, like we realize like he builds the foundation of faith. And so in the process of those invitations, that there are going to be things that are going to stretch you, that there are going to be things that are going to be hard. And that there are going to be things that you have no clue about, like I have no clue what this is going to look like. I have no clue what this is going to, end up being. And yet there's such an amazing journey with God in that process. And as the yes to the invitation is given, and as the invitation is accepted, for me, what's happened is there's this vast territory that opens up in God's heart. So we have the stuff that's happening on earth, like for you, the prayer thing, or for me, sometimes it's starting a new project that's like, never been done before, right? There's a lot of never been done before in the Warrior Commission because we're wanting to explore what it is to really go after that territory in God's heart that is rarely seen, because so many people are like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I'm done, but in the invitation, the adventure is really to get to know him better. And in the process of getting to know him better and what it is to do that journey with him, I think that we step into something that's beyond our wildest imagination. And that's where we step into those limitless possibilities of God's heart in that place. And so, I think that it's the adventure that draws us. And that initial resistance starts to give way over time because that trust builds and our confidence in ourselves builds as well. I think there was a component about identity in that adventure, Joyce, when we were talking before, that was really, I think, a really key area. And I was wondering if maybe you might share a little bit about how your identity kind of is a part of the adventure and a part of that invitation.
Yeah, that is a great thought, Christine. I think when I think of a new invitation and the unknowns, one of my identities is a trailblazer. I mean, I not everybody's a trailblazer, but for me, like this is my. So I'm like, okay, no wonder you're giving me so many unknowns, right? Like, I get it. So you start to recognize, like, yep, I made you to do this. Like, actually, in Jesus as a trailblazer, you can forge these paths, and then other people can come along behind you. And
Mhm.
so that if I just am in my natural self and not in my identity with Jesus, it's intimidating. But once I step into that, then I recognize, and I can even look back and see, even before I knew I was a trailblazer,
Mhm.
that's what I did. I get bored with maintenance, and that's not because maintenance projects are boring. It's
Mhm.
because that's not who God made me to be. Some
Right.
people are extremely faithful. God made them to be, do that project. So, I mean, we all like want to live in that identity because that's where we really, God made us to shine when
Mhm.
we walk in that identity. So, Christine, what have you found about shining as you walk in your identity, or where have you seen others shine as they walk in
Yeah.
their identities?
Well, I think I love that question, Joyce, actually, because to me, it's one of the most exciting parts about the Warrior Commission is seeing people come to life, and it's not that they aren't alive. I mean, obviously they're living, but there's the joy and the freedom that they experience in the process of those breakthroughs. And that understanding of this is really who I am. And they find that wheelhouse of what it is to do life with God and with others. And in that place, there's an explosion of joy. And so even in the times, there are times that are hard. I mean, we're not going to be like, oh yeah, we're always going to be in amazing happiness and joy. There's joy obviously as a fruit of the spirit, so it's always there. But in the process of the growth, we know that there is something that God has that will bring us to life so that we can live, move, and have our being in him and with him. And that to me is one of the more exciting pieces of seeing people really step into a fullness of their identity. And I also love too, Joyce, that you own your part, right? You, as a trailblazer, as a pioneer, as an explorer, you own that part. But I also feel that we need to value how everyone's wired. So those people that are wired for maintenance, it's good because they maintain this, or the implementers, right? Because the implementers help things that our dreams become reality, and the maintainers help those things continue to progress and expand in that way. So we need all of us in the body of Christ for this. But I do feel like we're in a season right now where there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of shifting going on. God's changing some things. And so Joyce, would you have any encouragement or thoughts about stepping into an invitation that doesn't necessarily have a lot of understanding with it as far as information or what it's going to look like, or it just seems to be kind of hidden, the mysteries of God? Do you have any encouragement for that?
Well, it's something that I'm exploring, Christine, right now. But I think, it all boils back to the fact that God is good. And anytime we step out and we say yes to whatever that is that he's put on our heart, we can trust that he will work all things for good. So it doesn't matter if it's successful right away or not, like he's going to work it for good. And I think like delving into that goodness, like that has become my anchor. So I guess I would encourage people to maybe do an exploration of the goodness of God, because it's, you know, that can be a journey. For me, it was a journey to really come into alignment with the fact that he wanted good things for me. I could say that out of my mouth, but I don't know that my heart yet came into alignment with that. So that can be another place of exploration. There's just, God has like, what I want to encourage people is that if something is on your heart, if you're excited about something, it doesn't matter how big, how small, is it a character of God? Is it something to do? Whatever that is, like go deep, explore it. Begin looking in scriptures, whatever it is that is on your heart to do, and God is going to honor that. He just is. And you will start to see yourself blossom and grow deeper with him in a way, because we all know that focusing is how we transition. Like when we take one thing and we begin to go deeper, we begin to pray about it, we begin to try things, that's where we begin to see transformation.
That's so good. That is so good. So there is a lot here to unpack. There's a lot, or as we say, unpack. There's a lot to explore. There's a lot to go deeper into. As you guys listen, feel free to listen to it again to hear those key components. And Joyce, thank you so much for being here and asking that question and being willing for us to push record and explore it together. So if you guys are interested in finding out more about the Warrior Commission, you can check out the website, thewarriorcommission.com. It's also in the text below this video. But in the meantime, we hope you guys have an incredible day and have some fun exploring all of those questions that God has for you. Bye.